Many people today think that the idea of sacrificing people is so strange and far away that it might as well be from a story they only vaguely remember. Still, the proof left by societies around the world and through time can't be ignored. People were sacrificed. Whether it's physical evidence found by archaeologists or written accounts from people who say they saw rites of sacrifice, the sheer amount of evidence means we have to admit that it happened. Because there are so many cases, some types of sacrifice stand out for a number of shocking reasons. Some are famous for the strangely large number of people who may have been killed in rituals, while others are famous for the long and strange chain of events that led people to a sacrifice site. For example, Incan children who were chosen to be sacrificed on a mountaintop, now called capacocha, were often treated well and prepared for the process for months before they had to go on a long hike to a cold, faraway peak. More sacrifices have been recorded because of the strange ways the bodies were treated during or after the ritual. Future people will find out about the effects hundreds of years after the sacrifice was over, and archaeologists will be puzzled for generations by their discovery. Humans may have been sacrificed to accompany ancient Mesopotamian royals. We don't know of any cities that were the very first in history, but the Sumerian city of Ur, which is now in Iraq, is pretty darn old. Archaeologists now think that it was built around 6,000 years ago based on the physical proof they have found. Probably almost as old as towns and other places where people live together is the idea that someone should be in charge of everything. So it shouldn't be a surprise that Ur had kings and a royal cemetery where the bodies of servants and elaborate tombs full of gold jewelry were buried with the elite. In the 20th century, researcher C. Leonard Woolley found the bodies of several people in a royal grave pit. He thought they were servants who either gave their lives or were killed to be with a queen. But while Woolley thought they might have taken poison, a look at skulls from the graveyard in the 21st century shows that at least some of them died from head injuries. An anthropologist named Janet M. Monge told the New York Times that certain cracks found in skulls that had been rebuilt from the graveyard could only have happened to someone who was still alive. Also, the guards and courtiers whose bodies were found with Ur's royal family may not have been left alone. Some people were killed in a ritual way by puncturing the skull, and their bodies were treated with mercury to try to keep them alive during a long funeral. This research was released in the 2015 issue of Antiquity. Ancient Egypt sent servants into the tomb with early pharaohs. Archaeologists thought for a long time that some of Egypt's oldest pharaohs sacrificed servants so that they could go to the afterlife with them, but it wasn't until the 21st century that there was strong proof. Researchers from New York University, the University of Pennsylvania, and Yale worked together in 2004 to dig up the bodies of 6 people who lived near the tomb of Aha, who ruled about 5,000 years ago. It looked like they were all buried at the same time in one big grave. Archaeologists told the New York Times that the people were important, such as skilled workers and high-level government leaders. Strangely, large numbers of the bodies of young adults have also been found during excavations, which is not typical for that time period. It's not clear what the sacrifice was, but it looks suspicious enough that most experts think it's good proof of human sacrifice. For people lower on the social ladder, it wasn't possible to kill a lot of servants to go with someone to the afterlife, or even just one. At least the practice of sacrificing retainers seems to have stopped sometime during Egypt's first era, which happened a very long time ago. Instead, the Egyptians buried their dead with shabti, which are small human images. People thought that these came to life in the underground and did boring work for their masters while the great dead relaxed in the afterlife. People of ancient Carthage may have sacrificed children. In the Hebrew Bible, there is a very scary part about offering children as sacrifices to the god Moloch, who is also sometimes written as Molech or Molech. Several times, books like Leviticus, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah say bad things about the practice. However, the story of Abraham's almost successful attempt to kill his son Isaac shows that the practice wasn't completely out of the question at that time. Based on what we know about archaeology, old societies may have been sacrificing children over fire at that time. Tophets, which are holy sites, have been found in the Phoenician city of Carthage, which is now in Tunisia. These sites suggest that sacrifices were made there. Baby bones that had been burned were buried in urns at tophets with animal bones and writings that praised the gods. However, this is a very divisive subject. Some say that these were likely grave grounds for people who had already died, while others say that the expensive cremations, large number of remains and writings suggest a darker story. Even a close look at the baby bones found at the Carthage Tophet can lead to very different opinions. In a 2013 article published in Antiquity, the authors say that earlier researchers were wrong about the ages of the people who lived there and say there is strong proof that babies were sacrificed on purpose at the site. In a response from 2017, the author says that there isn't enough evidence to say for sure that baby sacrifice took place. Bog bodies may have been offerings to ancient European gods. The bodies of people who were dumped in peat bogs across northern Europe are very interesting, even if they got there by chance. They are part of a strange history of bog bodies. Because these bogs are low in oxygen, high in acid and high in tannins, bodies can be incredibly well preserved. Some remains from thousands of years ago look like the person was just sleeping. For some, though, their long rest in the cold, dark water wasn't a mistake. Denmark's Tolland man, one of the most famous bodies found in a bog, was found with a noose still around his neck. It was most likely used to hang him. Britain's Lindo man seems to have died a very slow death that included being stabbed, strangled, and drowned. He was submerged in the bog while still breathing, and proof that he breathed in water while he was dying was found by researchers 2,000 years after he died. A look at what was in his stomach also revealed that he ate a strangely large number of different seeds and grains, along with mistletoe, right before he died. This may have been related to an important farming rite, but why and to whom were these people being killed? In the Iron Age, when crops were the main source of food for many people, making the gods happy, who were thought to control nature, would have been very important. Giving them a human life would be the most valuable thing that could happen, so it would make the gods happy. Aztec priests assembled racks of skulls. The Spanish conquistadors wanted to explain why they took over the Americas in a violent way. It's possible that the Spanish stories from the 1600s about horrible human sacrifices and mountains of skulls in the Aztec city of Tenochtitlan were greatly exaggerated to make Hernán Cortés and his men look less cruel. Without a doubt, the stories are shocking. When the conqueror Bernal Díaz del Castillo went into Tenochtitlan with Cortés, he wrote in his diaries that he saw a huge pile of tens of thousands of human skulls near the city's temple. In spite of this, digs in Mexico City have shown that the historians weren't totally off. More than 600 human skulls have been found at a tower near Templo Maya, the main temple of Tenochtitlan. This is where the skulls would have been displayed during the Spanish invasion. They were both male and female, adults and children, and they were known to be killed in public rites and then sacrificed to the gods. The skulls of people who were killed as sacrifices would have been gathered and put on racks called zompantli by the native Nahuatl people. They also had the skulls of dead fighters, and the whole thing was regularly updated with the faces of new sacrifices. Some people may have been sacrificed as part of construction projects. In the past, building things was a very important job. People didn't want their houses or bridges to fall down or break in some other way. What else can an old engineer do besides checking their work twice? In some societies, building a strong base seemed to involve killing a person as part of the process. That's what the stories say, at least. A lot of stories say that a live person had to be buried at the base of a new building to make the local gods happy and let the building stand. These are called foundation sacrifices. People may have even thought that the dead person could turn into a guardian ghost. People in Britain, Eastern Europe, the Mediterranean, and India have all heard this scary story. people were said to have to be walled up in or near a water-based building project, like a bridge or dam. In Japan, this was called itobashira, which means human pillar. But was there ever a real base sacrifice? Quite likely. In 2017, work at the 1,600-year-old Wolsong Castle in Korea found the bodies of a man and a woman in their 50s buried in the walls. More work was done in 2021, and a single young woman was found buried nearby. It's now very likely that the three were put there to protect the castle or make people happy, even though there were no clear wounds or writings that admitted to the practice. Julius Caesar claimed Gauls sacrificed people in a wicker man. People who like scary movies have probably already seen The Wicker Man, either the original 1973 version starring Christopher Lee or the less well-known 2006 remake with Nicolas Cage. In both movies, spoilers for a movie that came out more than 50 years ago, the main character is caught by the pagan people who live in a remote area and put into a huge wicker sculpture that looks like a person. As part of a sacrifice meant to improve the next crop, the wicker man is set on fire with the poor person still inside. It might sound like something out of a scary movie, but there may have been a real wicker man human if you asked Julius Caesar. In his Commentaries on the Gallic War, Caesar said that the Gauls, a Celtic tribe that lived mostly in what is now France and was defeated by Caesar in 50 BC, built huge wicker figures of people, filled them with real people, and then set them on fire to please their gods. But do we believe Caesar? Rome liked to make defeated people look like wild animals, and stories about human sacrifice were a good way to do that. Not much else is known about this time period in history, but the Greek writer Strabo wrote in his book Geography that the Gauls sacrificed people and animals with wicker men. Capacocha rituals sacrificed Inca children. From some time before the 13th century until it was overrun in 1532, the Inca Empire in South America was very big and complicated. Its members also did things that might shock us now, like capacocha, which is the practice of sacrificing children. During this months-long event, areas had to send children who were thought to be physically perfect to Cusco, the capital, along with other gifts. After being praised, the kids would be led in a long parade to a place high up called a huaca, which means shrine. From there, they would be sent away and buried. Some may have been put to sleep and then buried alive in the cold, low-oxygen space. The most shocking physical proof of the capacocha rite was found on the Andean peak of Lulailaco, which is on the border between Argentina and Chile. Archaeologists found the mummies of 3 children in 1999 at a huaca that was about 22,000 feet above sea level. The bodies were in amazing condition. Hair samples showed that the kids used to eat poor food, but all of a sudden they started eating fancy food like corn and meat, and they also drank and used cocaine a lot. A 13-year-old girl, who was the oldest in the group, drank the most. The older girl's drug use peaked right before she died, which may have made her less likely to fight her fate at the top of Lulailaco. It is possible that the Ice Maiden, another Andean mummy, was also killed by capacocha. Vikings occasionally practiced human sacrifice. Vikings are known for many things, some of which are slightly silly. No, they didn't wear caps with horns. And some of which are just plain wrong, like sacrificing people. It looked like those sacrifices were made to make the gods happy. As proof, there is a Swedish picture stone that seems to show a person in the middle of a sacrifice, and human parts have been seen in ritual settings before. There are also written records that show Viking villages sacrificed people, but early Christian historians wanted to make the pagan Vikings look really bad. We do have a detailed report from a non-Christian source, Ibn Fadlan, a Muslim historian and diplomat who lived in the 10th century. He met the Rus, a group of Vikings, while wandering in what is now Russia, and saw one of their nobles' funerals, which was very elaborate. Fadlan said that the important man's death meant that one of his slaves would go with him to the future. That group's one volunteer woman was praised with food, drinks, and 2 workers of her own. She was treated well for a short time, but she had to pay for it by being treated badly again. As Fadlan wrote, She was sexually attacked, drugged, and asked to look into the afterlife before the man's funeral. She was then ritually killed while lying next to the body of the important man in his beached boat. When they were done, they set the boat on fire and then built a big mound over the ashes. Human sacrifice was reportedly central to the kingdom of Dahomey. From the 1600s to the early 1900s, the West African country of Dahomey was a major power. It became famous by going to war and trading slaves. As Europeans took over more of Africa, they started to tell horrible stories about how people were sacrificed in Dahomey. There were even people who said that capturing people and taking them away from their homes was good for them because at least they wouldn't be killed. Someone told the UK House of Commons in 1860 that the planned sacrifices for the kingdom would kill 2,000 people and make a small lake of blood. Still, it's possible that the stories of bloody human sacrifices in Dahomey were made up to back slavery and colonialism. A fair examination of history records severely weakens the colonialist story. On the other hand, it's hard to say for sure that stories about human skulls being shown at the royal house are not true. Some of these seem to come from real deaths of people, like captured enemy soldiers. In the kingdom, sacrifice was a big part of religious ceremonies. The most important thing to offer the gods was a human body, but the stories of huge sacrifices and cannibalism were almost certainly made up. They might have even been made up by the Dahomeyans, who might have thought it was funny to be seen as scary cannibals by their neighbors. Ancient Greeks may have sacrificed people. The ancient Greeks had a difficult relationship with the practice of human sacrifice. Some myths, like the one about King Lycaon, who tried to serve the god Zeus the meat of his own son, are against the practice. The angry god changed Lycaon into a wolf, but the Greek traveller and writer Pausanias also said that blood sacrifices were part of Lycaean rituals to honor Zeus, and that one worshipper accidentally ate human flesh and turned into a wolf for a short time. In other myths, Agamemnon killed his daughter Iphigenia to make sure that the Trojan War would go well. In the story of the Minotaur, young Athenians were sent into the monster's maze as a bloody sacrifice. Archaeologists have found more proof that the story of ancient Greeks sacrificing people for sacrifice is true. Before, this story may have been just an interesting myth that went against the idea of ancient Greece as a reasonable and civilized place. In 2016, the Greek government said that excavations on Mount Lycaon had found the body of a young boy. It wasn't clear from the bones that he had been sacrificed, but the spot has long been known as a shrine to Zeus, where people offered animals as sacrifices to the god. In 2017, archaeologists on the island of Crete found the skull of a young girl. The bones had been purposely taken apart, and some study into the area showed that the girl may have been sacrificed in response to a terrible earthquake.